I would like to know from your perspective, if a man was interested in Sydney, how should he approach you?
Honestly, I would love to be approached just in like a day-to-day environment, whether it be like the grocery store or like walking on the street. But
Right.
I just think like showing your interest is
Mhm.
better than like not showing it at all. Like,
This is one of those areas of life that, number one, is incredibly gray. Number two, and I'm going to get into this in a second for the guys, there's no rule book. What we know is when people, it's kind of like one of these situations where when you have an example of something, you almost don't know the right way to say it, but you know what the wrong way is when you see somebody do it. I wanted to talk a lot more to women because I want to understand what women today are seeking from male companionship, from male partners. And obviously, I'm a man, so I only know what a lot of us think, and I talk to a lot of men.
mhm.
I don't expect you to represent all women. I certainly don't represent all men. But the idea is to try to get more understanding and learning from one another. Because I'm trying to actually become a bridge where we stop only listening to people that we already agree with, or we only listen to people who reaffirm the points that we already hold.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, with all that being said, I would like to know from your perspective, if a man was interested in Sydney, how should he approach you?
Okay, so this one I feel like I need to think about.
Okay. That's
um,
okay.
but so obviously there's like a wrong way, I would say, but not like
Okay.
well, hold on. See, this is why I wanted to think about it because I don't just want to start talking.
That's okay.
Um, honestly, I would love to be approached like I don't know. I think I mentioned this to you last time, but like just in like a day-to-day environment, whether it be like the grocery store or like walking on the street. I actually like catcalling is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Right.
about like
Right.
if you find somebody attractive and you like stop them to say hi, like I think you're pretty, would you want to like go out sometime?
Mhm.
Actually, I had an experience once where I went shopping. See, this is why it's just personal to me, right? Because not some girls
Mhm.
would hate this, but
Sure. Sure.
so I went shopping at a store like in Soho in New York, and like I had bought a pair of pants, and so one of the girls was helping me, but then there was like a guy at the register, and like I was getting I bought the pants, and then we had like a small conversation, him and I, and then I had to put in my information in like the tablet um for my purchase.
Hmm.
And then the next day, I was with my ex at the time. The
Okay.
next day, I get a text message saying like, "Hey, this is so and so from like the store. I actually like know that this might be weird, but like I think you're really pretty, and I would love to take you out to get drinks or food sometime." And if I was single, I would have said yes. Like I would have been like, okay, yeah, like that. I just like when people go hard for me. I know
Yeah.
that not there's a boundary to there, and I don't know
Hmm.
how to like I can't like give every example in the world of like what's too hard, but
Right.
I just think like showing your interest is
Hmm.
better than like not showing it at all. Like
Of course.
please
Of
be
course.
forward, like please be like make it known that you're interested in me, like I want to know that. So anyways, yes, that's kind of, and but then like right, like y- inevitably there are going to be times where people come up to you and like you're just not interested.
Of course.
um and so I mean at that point I wouldn't know how to say to respond to that, but like I guess yeah, that's I don't know, does that answer the question?
No, it does. And I want to acknowledge, and I want everybody else who's watching and listening to acknowledge, it's difficult for her to put this into words, right? And I'm not saying that because it's something wrong with you. It's just fundamentally hard, right? This is one of those areas of life that, number one, is incredibly gray. Number two, and I'm going to get into this in a second for the guys, there's no rule book. What we know is when people, it's kind of like one of these situations where when you have an example of something, you almost don't know the right way to say it, but you know what the wrong way is when you see somebody do it. So we can use the example. Sydney said if she's walking down the street in Soho or wherever you are in New York at that time, if you get catcalled, that's inappropriate. Guys, remember that. That's inappropriate. I can totally get with that because that doesn't necessarily show full intention. That's just me kind of responding, but not in a way that's really showing you my intent to take it seriously, to take you
Right.
seriously, right? But then we get to this nuanced part. We get to this huge gray cloud of, okay, so then what is the right way? So, but you brought up some good points. You should be intentional. You should make it overtly obvious that I'm into you and I would like to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
One thing I like that you said, because this is something I think that's particularly challenging in today's society, is you said, I wouldn't mind being approached on the street or at the grocery store or when I'm shopping. I don't hear a lot of people talking like that, but I would concur with you because that's like the old school way of doing things.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like, using apps and stuff. I think we're missing that element, that sort of 3D element of seeing that person, talking to them, to get like a glance of their personality. And then that can be the type of thing that can persuade somebody to want to actually go out with you.
Yeah.
But when we're just swiping, like you're missing that element. So we're much more superficial than when you actually get the opportunity to converse with a person, even if it's briefly. Is that a fair statement for me to say?
Yeah, 100%. I think most of my like dates and even relationships have been from apps or like, yeah, either dating apps or like Instagram. And like, I would love for it to not be that all the time. I feel like it's so easy to slide in somebody's DMs.
Of course,
Like,
the barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah. And like, I'm just like, I don't know. I want more effort. Like, and then how can you tell really, right? Like other than unless somebody comes in your DMs saying some crazy stuff, but like if somebody's saying like hi, they want to have a conversation, like you don't really know what their intentions are or where they're going with it. I feel like if somebody comes up to you in the store, like they really want to get to know you because that takes a lot. That takes
like,
a lot
hey,
of
Sydney, I saw you in produce and I love the way you were handling those mangoes and I would love to get your number, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Can we come can we come back here and actually put together a meal that I'll cook for you?
Yeah. Right? Like but to me it just seems more like there's more of an effort.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's and again, that's the tricky part, right? So let's acknowledge some things for the guys out there because I don't want the guys to think I'm not gonna touch on how challenging it can be, right? So let's talk about relationship dynamics really quick. So we know for the most part, for heterosexual couples and people who want to pursue those types of relationships, it's typically going to be the man that's going to pursue the woman. Is that a fair statement for me to say? Most often.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I want to make sure we establish that sort of as the status quo is because that inherently means that obviously the man then needs to be comfortable with rejection. He has to learn to be comfortable with rejection because as you said, he's got to be willing to put himself out there. And then obviously the woman's going to decide whether she wants to entertain whatever he has to say or not. So number one, guys, if you're going to want to try to pursue somebody, you got to learn to be okay with rejection. That's number one. So then we build from there. So then if I do want to pursue somebody, so we're walking on the street, I'm at, well, you're in New York. I'm just going to throw a store out that I know. You're in Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Because I've been to New York once and I went to a Trader Joe's there.
Love Trader Joe's.
Okay, cool. So we're in Trader Joe's. We're in produce. You're holding a pineapple. I got some oranges. I see you. I want to come up to you and I want to speak to you, right? So you're saying you feel like it would be appropriate to actually come up to you and speak to you in that direct manner, particularly because we're in an actual space where you can see me, you can kind of gauge my intent.
Yeah.
Is that also still fair?
Yep.
Okay. So then we got to be willing, if we're getting okay with the rejection, then we actually got to do the approach and try to be engaging, right? Obviously, this is different for every person. So we're not saying this is for everybody to meet with everybody because that's not true. Like you said, everybody doesn't want to be with everybody. But the point is, if I at least do those two steps, I'm giving myself an opportunity to possibly make a connection.
Right.
Right? Okay. I think those are some bare minimum expectations that we can hold. I think that's fair. In my opinion, I believe that that's fair. Now, in terms of the approach, I think that that makes sense because, again, like we talked about, in most cases, the man's going to approach the woman. I do want to ask you, just out of curiosity, has there ever been a time where you have approached the man?
Yes, but it's because of like liquid courage. I've
Okay.
never just like approached a guy because I was like out somewhere, and that's a lie. That is a lie. That just came to my mind. This was like years ago though. Now that
Okay.
I'm older, yes, I 100% want to be, I definitely want to be pursued. I don't want to pursue that. Like I think I maybe that's more traditional. Not everybody agrees with me, but like
That's
I
okay.
definitely want to be pursued and not the pursuee.
Yeah.
Um, but no, yeah, there was a time I think I was like, I was like at Walmart like years ago, and I thought like one of the workers there was good looking, so I went up to him, which was pretty brave of me.
Hmm.
I think we texted for a couple of days, but nothing ever happened. But anyways,
Okay. Okay.
so yes, I
Hey,
have.
it's I think it's still relevant, but I think
Yeah.
you also are at the same time you're still making a good point that it's pretty typical that, and I get it too. Most people, if you ask them, would you want to put yourself in the vulnerable position of having to worry about being rejected? I don't know anybody that would consciously want to say, yeah, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
Right? You would say no. I want to be able to say no, because then not about pride necessarily, but maybe like my ego doesn't have to be hurt,
Yeah.
and maybe I just like being in that position, right? So I
Yeah.
don't fault women for wanting that. I think that that
Yeah.
is the way that it just historically has been. One of
Yeah.
those things that it's just a norm culturally.
Yeah.
Okay, so we building off that, right? So now let's talk about, like, so let's say you've approached this person. We're kind of following this dating scenario, so just roll with me.
Yeah.
So you've met this person, y'all met at Trader Joe's. He approached you, you liked the vibe, gave him the number, started chit chatting. Now you're starting to go on dates, right? Have you ever had an opportunity or a time where, when you were going through the initial dating process, that you were very clearly able to, you and them were clearly able to describe the expectations of what you wanted from that person?
Um, do you mind wording the question one more time?
Sure. So again, so we're sticking with this encounter of, you just met this person, you're just starting to go on dates with them. So you very much still trying to learn them, they're trying to learn you,
Mhm.
right? Has there been a time in the past where you felt like you very intentionally were able to describe what your expectations were of that person if y'all were going to continue dating, and
Yeah.
that they were able to do that with you?
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, I already said like a lot of my or all my past relationships, I don't think they started the best. I don't think they ended the best off either. But like, um, I don't think I was having the right conversations either,
Mm,
and understanding like I again like I wasn't even ready for my last relationship, so maybe I didn't even know what I wanted at that time. And like after being with him, then I was like, I know what I want because you embody a lot of those qualities that I didn't even realize that I was looking for.
mm,
Uh, so I don't think that I've had too many of those conversations, but I think it's very important to like do so. I think other than like, to be honest, maybe just like at my generation, like my first thing, like the one conversation I will have is like, what are your intentions in terms of like, are you just trying to like hook up, or are you
mm,
trying to be in a relationship? Because other
mm.
than that, like once it's like, oh, I'm trying to be in a relationship, like then it's like, okay, well, we're both trying to be in a relationship, we like each other, cool. This, but none of those real things that need to be talked about are getting talked about, and then shit hits the fan, and it's like, well,
Okay.
why? Well, because we didn't talk about it. Um,
Okay.
well, yeah,
No, I love that answer. Number one, I love the honesty.
yeah.
Honesty is always important. Um, and I think that's fair. I think I believe I'm in the millennial generation, so I'm guessing you're Gen Z.
I'm on the cusp. It's like they said 97 is millennial and Gen Z, or like right on the cusp of it. I don't know.
Okay,
I guess
maybe,
there
maybe
are
you're
ways.
like maybe you're the beginning of that new one.
Yeah, yeah,
But anyway, I just say that because I think we kind of started that process, the whole situationships, that kind of deal. And I had a discussion with that on a previous episode with a young lady right around your age, in Miami, and we were talking about that, how the only reason why you can even have one of those is because you actually don't talk about it. You intentionally don't talk about it. That's how you end up being in that situation, because you're literally
Yeah.
saying like, I don't want to have these discussions. I don't want to figure out
Yeah.
where we're going and what we want. I'm just, hey, in the moment, in the present, cool. You want to be with me? Great. Let's go on this journey. And one thing I like to offer to you as my guest and to the audience is a bit of experience, just in terms of saying, if we want these things to last longer. So this is predicated on you want a long-term relationship. If you want a long-term relationship, possibly leading to marriage, okay? If that is an intention, maybe not right now, but we're talking about in the scope of your life, if that's something that you desire, okay? I must, capital O's, act with intention. What does that mean? That means I have to know, if I'm Sydney, I got to know, what do I need? What do I bring? I have to know these things.
Yeah.
So when you sit down with me and you're sitting down and we're at dinner now, right? So let's go back to our scenario. So now we're at dinner and we're talking. What are your intentions? Go ahead and ask me the question. We're going to do a quick little role play. Ask me the question.
Okay. Well, what are your intentions?
Well, honestly, I asked you out because I'm seriously trying to pursue somebody that I can build a life with. You know, I have most of my things in life pretty much in order the way that I want. And I think the one thing at this point that I'm really missing is I want that family. I really want to be able to have children. And so I'm looking for somebody who also wants to create that, I would say within the next 3 years.
Very, very, very intentional. Was that the point there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never gotten a response like that, like ever.
Okay.
And
I mean, to be fair, it could be because, again, like we're in a slight different age difference. So it could be
I was
just
going to say that, yeah.
they may not be as serious. Not that there aren't young men. I don't want to, you guys think I'm not thinking about you. There's some guys in their, mid 20s, they're ready. So we're not gonna, shade them and act like they don't want it. But it is pretty typical for men. Like, it takes us a little bit longer because we got to make sure that we're financially stable, because a lot of us hold to traditional norms. I need to be able to provide, for the most part, certainly for me, but especially if I want to invite a woman into my life, so that we can build, because the foundation is going to, in a lot of cases, be built on my ability to provide that stability. Right. But please continue.
I don't wait, continue with what's it. Sorry. I don't know. Was there another question? I just think, I was just going to say, honestly, is that like, I do agree that I think it's because of the age range, or like the people that I guess that I've been speaking with or talking to or getting into relationships with. The last guy I was with was the oldest guy I was with, and he was more intentional for sure. And that was something that I would tell him all the time, is that you're so intentional. Despite even like at the beginning, we didn't really have that conversation.
Yeah.
We talked about things that like our values and stuff like that. We had important conversations, but there was never like I don't know, you had a very formalized like sentence where it's like, I want this, I want it in this amount of time, preferably, right, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, does that align with you or not? Like, for me, for the way that I've been dating, it's like almost like a guessing game, and it's like, well, these things seem to fit together, they seem to be fine, but like, we don't know. Let's test it out and let's see. And I think that is the point of dating, but I also think like we should be more mindful of people's time. And like, if we're dating, like, let's be exactly like you said. Like,
can I ask you to say that part one more time?
Oh God, what did I say?
Being mindful of time.
Oh, we should be more mindful of people's time when we're dating, and be intentional about what we're saying and what we want. Because if you're dating, like you said, if you're dating I'm so sorry. If you're dating to be in a relationship or in a long-term relationship, in a marriage, and eventually have kids, like, you should, I mean, like, why waste time just dating to get to know a person and not be asking those important questions if you already know the answers in your head? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
I need to echo what you just said, Sydney, because you make perfect sense to me. Sydney said, do not waste people's time by being mindful of people's time. And that goes both ways, right? I need to be mindful of your time. I hope you're going to be mindful of my time. I follow the mantra that I usually say on the show. I give what I get, what I hope to get. So I try to manage my expectations from there. So if I want something, I'm going to lead by giving that. If I want respect, I'm going to give respect. If I want love, I'm going to give love. If I want you to be mindful of me and my feelings and my thoughts, then I'm going to certainly offer that first, because then it helps me to kind of want to hold you accountable, right? So you mentioned something there, and I like this because that's why we were kind of talking about situationships a moment ago. You said it's kind of like a guessing game. I said when you're dating younger people right now, because when you're not necessarily sure, it's a guessing game, right? Well, why are we guessing? Because we're not talking about it. We're left with no other option but to guess or assume, which both of them can equally be wrong. We can be 100% wrong, and yet we just kind of go through the motion, right? So let's kind of break down some of those ideas. I haven't really done this on the show before, but I think that this is a good way to kind of handle this.
Yeah.
So I think there's kind of levels to relationships, and let's be real. When we're younger, I don't necessarily think that every person, when you're 19, 20, 21, 22, that you have to operate with the I'm trying to get married yesterday. Now,
Right.
if you do, nothing but respect. But I wouldn't necessarily hold everybody to that standard, right? All I would say is this. If we want to be taken seriously, this is for men and women. I believe this is true. You tell me if you think that this is wrong. If we want to be taken seriously, we want things to be taken seriously, then we must act with intention. What can that look like? If I'm a traditional man, I'm probably going to focus on building my career, making sure I can provide that stability, because usually women see that as a plus, as a pro. They want to know that you have your ish together, so that way they can feel confident that they can bet on you. Not because a woman is incapable, not because she can't have her own job or she can't have education. That's not what I'm saying. But she needs to know that she can depend on you.
Yep.
That's an aspect, that's an important attribute for women. Men, it's not the same. We don't typically look at you ladies and think, I need her to provide. That's a role. That's where the roles are different. We look at you all for different things than you look for in us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's the attributes and the aspects of what we're going to look for are going to look different. But let's go back to the relationship aspect. So there's going to be levels to it. So maybe I'm just casually dating. Maybe I'm getting myself in situationships because I'm like, you know what? I'm young. I'm in school. I'm not really ready yet. Trying to figure myself out. No problem. Right? I'm managing my expectations. But as soon as we start talking about relationship, long-term, serious, committed relationship, right? That's where the narrative's got to shift. Because again, you are going to want to look for different things from me to be able to provide. And I'm going to want certain things from you. Part of what I would say is a part of that initial dating and courtship process, we're actually going to be talking about those things. What do I need from a partner, hypothetically? What do you need from that partner, hypothetically? And laying our cards on the table. These are the things that I know I cannot deal with. Like I mentioned the deal breakers earlier, mine's communication. You might have a different one. I need to be able to articulate and express those things, because we won't just figure it out on our own. Or if we do, it's going to take a ridiculous amount of time that you may not even get. What's the more practical way? Share it. If you need something, share it. If something bothers you, mention it. If this is a concern that you don't think you can't overcome, then talk about it.
Right.
And the same for me. Do you think that that's fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we go back to the dating scenario. So we want to take it seriously, right? So we're saying we're going to talk it through. We're going to be honest. We're going to be real. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to lay my cards on the table, the things that I know that I need, the things that I know I can't deal with, and what I'm hoping for, right? Then you're going to do the same. So let's continue on with that by first asking you a follow-up question. In your experience so far, I know you kind of mentioned already, but I just want to be clear. you haven't had a situation where a man's really sat you down that you've wanted to pursue and talk to you in that manner. Is that correct?
Not that I can remember, no.
Okay. And again, there's no shade. It's just the
Yeah.
understanding, right?
Yeah.
I challenge us as men to work on our emotional communication, because women, quite frankly, are quite better at it than us. But I believe a lot of it is because women are always taught that it is okay and it is appropriate to learn how to communicate. And for us, we're fundamentally not taught that it's okay. So it's not that we're not emotional or we don't want to talk about stuff. It's just like, if you ever ask somebody to do something that they've never been trained on how to do, you're going to be afraid of it. You're going to be uncomfortable.